Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Monty G. Yes, I guess I'm gonna still try to review some movies. I'm trying to take a look at some movies on Netflix because with the coronavirus, all the movies that were scheduled to come out this year are not coming out. They got pushed back. Let's see, Quiet Place Part 2 got pushed back. The Fast and Furious 9 got pushed back until 2021. That's not until next year. James Bond got pushed back to November. Milan. Almost every movie is pushed back due to the coronavirus. So that kind of leaves mostly people, especially big, larger critics like Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman, my good friend Susan. She has her own channel. She's trying to figure out what she can do. As far as I'm concerned, because I guess since I only just review horror movies, it's kind of easier for me because there are going to be some horror movies that come on Netflix. So I'm going to be reviewing them as well. I'm going to see if I can finally review The Girl on the Third Floor. I'm going to try to review that, and hopefully I'll see it this week and review that movie. There's a couple other movies I'm going to try to review. I think and there's a movie that stars Elijah Wood and Come to Daddy. I'm going to see if I can find and watch that. And I'm still trying to, I doubt I'll be able to, I've been trying to see The Lodge. And it's not playing here in Philly yet because I can't find it here. But I'm trying to see The Lodge. Everyone's been raving about this picture. But for now, I'm going to do a tag video that was done by my good friend Marty from the Trash Picture Show. And of course, it's the sci-fi tag because Marty loves his science fiction. So do I. Now, again, this is the sci-fi tag that Marty has come up with. There are 6 questions here, all relating to sci-fi horror. Now, his question number 1 is, what for you defines sci-fi horror? Now, it's just kind of a nice straight-up question here. For me, it's the combination of the two elements. You have science fiction and horror blending in together as one. Best example is The Thing by John Carpenter's The Thing, or the original The Thing from Another World, where you have this alien that crash lands, that crash landed. Let me get my past whatchamacallit together. Who crash lands to Earth 1,000 years ago into Arctic and is discovered by this team of scientists that are living in the Arctic. Now we know that's the science fiction is the alien coming from outer space, and also you have a monster, and there are horror elements in as well. But you can also have other elements of sci-fi, where especially back in old school horror, where you have the Invisible Man, or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where you have a scientist. Unfortunately, it runs amok. It cannot be controlled. It cannot be contained. And horror element, nobody can get more together. And crazy stuff happens where things get destroyed or it warps out of the way and people start dying. That's where the horror element comes. So you can have a creature that comes out from outer space and attacks humanity, or you can have scientists that try to change the way of nature and disaster strikes. So those are the two things that define sci-fi horror for me. Whether it's a creature from outer space or a scientist that tries to bend the will of nature, and of course it backfires and people start dying. So that's what I think would define sci-fi horror for me. Question number 2 is, what is your all-time favorite sci-fi horror film? Now, a lot of people are going to say Aliens or John Carpenter's The Thing or Alien or Alien 3. Yeah, those are the general answers, but I'm going to pick Cloverfield. Yes. Yeah, I love the crap out of that movie. I mean, you can't get anything better sci-fi horror related when you have this creature that obviously comes from space, attacks New York City, and a lot of crazy shit happens on the ground. You have these monsters that come off of it, and they attack the humans. And when you see this one, I think a Lizzie Chaplin's character, she gets scratched by one, and she explodes, and all this blood comes out of it as well. Yeah, definitely great elements of sci-fi horror. And so my all-time favorite sci-fi horror will be Cloverfield. Question number 3, what is your favorite recently released science fiction horror film? Now, a lot of people probably go with some other films, but I'm going to go with Brightburn that came out last year. Yes, what a great horror and sci-fi elements that this film together. What if a person came to Earth and had the powers of Superman, but was evil? And that's what happens in this particular one with Brandon, who comes to Earth. He has power similar to Superman, but yet he wants to do bad things. And there are some great horror elements that he does in this one. There's a scene where he attacks a woman from the lunch school, and he just throws shards of glass into her eyes, and she picks it out, and there's blood everywhere. There's a scene where he kills his uncle, and his jaw breaks off, and it's just great practical effects right there. He literally causes the sheriff to explode when he flies into him. I mean, yes, just terrible, terrible things that he does. And I'm not even going to say what he does to his father, or his human father, the guy who raises him. It's just a great sci-fi horror film. So my question for number 3 will be Brightburn. Question number 4, what is your most underrated sci-fi horror film? Now, I had 2 ways to go with this. There's a sci-fi horror film called Mimic, where it's kind of not really science fiction. It was directed by Guillermo del Toro. And you know how he likes to combine sci-fi with horror film. But I decided to go with an old 80s film called Extra. Yes. People who've seen this film know what I'm talking about. I believe it came out in the early 80s. It's about this man who was kidnapped by aliens. He disappeared. He comes back, and he wants his son. And he looks human, but we know he's not human. He comes back. He wants to take his son back to with him where he came from, because obviously what the aliens did to him, they made him one of them, and he wanted to come back and take his son. And I thought it was a decent sci-fi horror film. You have the sci-fi element with the aliens, and then you have the horror aspect about what the father does with some of the people in the flat. This is British, so the flat they live in, and what his son does to all the people right there, and eventually he takes his son. I thought it was very good. So question number 4 will be Extra. Question number 5, what is your guilty pleasure sci-fi horror film? And I had to really search for this one, but eventually I came up with Starship Troopers, and you can't get more sci-fi horror than Starship Troopers. I mean, you have a nice cast, Casper Van Dine, I believe it was, Denise Richards, and Neil Patrick Harris. Yes, Doogie Howser. Yeah, I forgot about the Casper Van Dine, Denise Richards, and Neil Patrick Harris. There were this nice trio of guys. He also had Diane Muir. She was in this as well. It was a nice combination of sci-fi and some horror with those bugs and the practical effects they did when the bugs attacked the humans. It was a great horror movie. A lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't. To me, it's a guilty pleasure one, because most of the time when I see it come on, I watch it because it's pretty interesting. The story is not that good, but I thought the acting was okay, but the practical effects were good. I liked the practical effects of the bugs. I like how they did it, and I love Michael Ironside in this picture. I thought he did a good job in this film right here. So my guilty pleasure for question number 5 is Starship Troopers. The final question is, which unproduced sci-fi horror would you like to have seen made? Now, this is a very difficult question to find, because it's kind of hard to find an answer like this. I want to go with the one that Marty put on his video, William Gibson's version of Alien 3, which would have been a Cold War between 2 corporations. I think it was I can't remember the names of them. They were both trying to breed their own alien, some type of a bio-Cold War, and then you had Hicks and Bishop caught in the middle of it. That's the type of script that he wanted to have. There was another script that Marty talked about in his film. I thought that was a pretty good idea too. It was something similar that we actually saw in theaters. But I would love to see this particular version that William Gibson had written, but they didn't do it that way. But it would have been interesting to see that one. So my question to answer 6 will be William Gibson's version of Alien 3. And so there you have it. That is the Sci-Fi Horror Tag by Marty, the Trash Picture Show. I'm going to leave a link to this description as well. If you have not subscribed to Marty, take a look at his channel. He's a very good dear friend of mine. I love his collection of Alien and Predators and G.I. Joe. One thing I love what Marty does, he makes these little at least 5 to 10 second little movies of showing the aliens or the predators or the Punisher or even some of the women, action women like Natasha or Harley Quinn. He does well. He just have fights or in bars. You really need to check out his channel if you haven't. You're missing some good horror content. And of course, he still does his horror reviews, but he's mainly a collector of all sorts of science fiction things. So check out his channel. So that's my video for the day, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, please hit that like button and share. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscriber button and ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime when I put up new videos such as this one. Also, all my social media links will be down in the description box below as well. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G. And always remember, horror rules. I'll see you in my next video. I'm out.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.